I'm Alexa Schwerha with Campus Reform, and you're watching 5 Big Questions. Today, I am so excited to speak with Goldwater Institute Vice President for Litigation, Jon Riches, to discuss an investigation into the University of Arizona's bias reporting system. Campus Reform has reported on the alleged unconstitutional nature of these systems at colleges all across the nation. So I'm very excited to dive deeper into this conversation. Jon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Alexa.
Of course. So we're talking about this investigation into the university. Can you tell us a little more about what you expected to uncover when you filed the public records request?
Sure. And so we were working with Christian Snyder, who's a reporter at the College Fix, and he's looked at these bias response teams throughout the country. And most of the time, the universities have provided records of the reports and the investigations and things, but the University of Arizona refused to do that. That's impermissible under Arizona's public records law. So we were helping Christian ensure that the university complied with the public records law so that he could get the information to then report on what the university's been doing with this team.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought up that the university originally denied the request to hand over that information. Is this something that happens often with universities?
Usually not. I mean, this is so clearly public information that we were a little surprised that the University of Arizona decided to initially refuse to provide the information. So we sent them a letter, said that that was in violation of Arizona law. It took them a little bit, but then they ultimately produced the records to allow Christian to continue conducting his investigative reporting.
And what was some of the most shocking details that this request revealed?
So there were some pretty strange things. As we know, these bias response teams can investigate just things that are, that really shouldn't be subject of any investigation at all. So for example, in one of the reports, a student reported his teacher or his professor for simply saying that the professor had never had a negative experience with law enforcement. And the student evidently was offended by that statement and reported the professor to the bias response team.
So it sounds like students can submit anytime their feelings gets hurt to this bias response system. And this is something, again, that we've covered here at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform. And a lot of the times it is reported that these systems are unconstitutional. But more than that, it seems to be a breach of public trust. Do you think that universities should be maybe more cautious about failing to disclose these records?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, as you say, the problem with these things is that if you have a system that's set up where students can anonymously be reporting on each other or faculty or others, what naturally happens is people become scared to speak. Their speech is chilled, and that's unconstitutional. But at the very least, if universities persist with these, and if courts have enjoined these, by the way, throughout the country, at least under certain circumstances, but if the universities persist with setting these teams up in ways that arguably are constitutional, at the very least, they must be transparent about it. They have to be telling the public what's going on here, what sorts of things are being reported, how the university is handling those reports. And so that was our involvement with the case down at the University of Arizona.
And my final question for you, what do you think people need to know about these systems and how can more attention be brought to them?
I think people need to know in the first place that they exist. I think a lot of viewers might be surprised to learn that on over 230 college campuses, they've set up these sort of Orwellian, student report on student systems. So they need to know that in the first place. Like they need to know that there's not a lot of protections that exist in these. So oftentimes investigations can lead to disciplinary action or disciplinary referrals where due process rights aren't protected. And then I think they need to know what sorts of things are being reported and then what the university is doing with those reports. And that's exactly what our case sought out in helping Christian Snyder get this information.
Absolutely. Well, Jon, thank you so much for coming on today and bringing down this issue for us.
Thanks, Alexa. Appreciate the invite.